Earlier I said something about bats being cool, and the student said bats are just rats with wings. And like a couple things, okay? You said that like that would be a bad thing if they were rats with wings, but rats they're also demonized like bats. Either way, they're not rats with wings. Rats are rodents. Rodents, actually, fun fact, make up about 40% of all mammal species. Bats make up about 20% of all mammal species. So if you look at all mammals, 60% of them are either rodents or bats. That's awesome. But they are mammals. They're not birds either. I see that a lot. Like people like they think like bats lay eggs. What is that? No, they're mammals. They have their own order, like biological order, classification and stuff. It's Chiroptera, which translates to hand wing, which I think is pretty cool. And speaking of birds, you know that bats are actually better flyers. Like because of the fact that they have the bone, their hand is kind of strewn throughout their wing. They can make more like minute little turns and adjustments than birds can. And speaking of phrases, like blind as a bat, bats aren't blind. Like most bats have vision about on par with a human, both in day and night. So, at nighttime, they don't see that great. But that's where echolocation comes in. And not all bats echolocate, by the way. Like a lot of fruit-eating bats don't. Pollinating bats. A lot of bats. Pollinating, so, tequila only exists because of bats. Pollinating agave. And the whole rabies thing. Okay, you still don't pick up a bat that you find, right? That's called not being dumb. But did you know that out of all the bats that are collected and then tested for being suspected of having rabies, so the bats that people think have rabies and then that are tested, only 6% of the 6% of the suspected bats actually have rabies. So it's not nearly as common, as abundant as people think. Still though, don't just be like, oh, a bat, let me pick it up and carry it. Because again, just don't be dumb. Also, did you know that a single bat can eat something like 1,000 mosquito-sized insects in 1 hour? And when you consider the fact that they live for about 35 years, you're talking somewhere upwards of 40 million insects in one lifespan. One lifespan. Also, bats are credited with doing about $22 million in services for agriculture, like pest control and that sort of thing. Anyway, it just drives me bat booty crazy bonkers when people talk bad about bats. And I feel like there should be justice for bats. And that's my thing for today.